Hey guys, Kevin with On Point Pro Styles in Gainesville, Georgia. I figured we'd do a video. This is one that I've been getting requests on. It's going to be a little bit more of an advanced shrinking video. I've got me a little station set up back here with a hatchback glass from a 2018 Honda Civic that tends to be a little bit more difficult for some people. So I got a piece of film on it. I got it all set up. I got a camera. We're going to move over there and we're going to see if we can't get through some advanced shrinking. So let's get started. So here we are at the back glass. I've got this sitting on a body panel stand. So it's laying a little bit more flat, obviously, than it would be if it was on the vehicle. So that does make it a little bit more challenging, but this is gonna be about these heavy curves on the bottom, what to do about that. I like to lock my H-line down here as opposed to in the middle to just help it a little bit, because this is so curved. This isn't as bad, so it's a little bit easier to shrink up here, so I leave more up here and less down here. So anyways, let's get started. First thing you're gonna wanna note is I did not lock the sides down, because even the sides are really bubbly, and when I push that down, you can see just the amount of film that has to be shrunk out here. So get your heat gun on high. This is a dry shrink. I prepped the glass with a dryer sheet. Let it dry. I laid my film out and all I did was trim the sides. I left it long on the bottom and on the top. Most of the shrinking videos we've been through, if you look back at them or watch them, we talk about number one, first and foremost, tint only shrinks one way. It shrinks from the factory edges only. The pull side will not shrink, so you have to be aware of that pull side. But you want to shrink as close to that as you can to get some of this bunching out. Now, instead of just shrinking a little and pushing it down, shrinking a little and pushing it down like we're all used to seeing, we're going to use a little bit of pull shrinking on this to help us keep the film pulled taut so that we can get the film shrunk down without it bunching up. It's really difficult to just keep heating, and you get up into a big bunch, and that heat's just gonna overheat the film. Second thing to think about is when you have this much to heat, the hotter the film gets, the faster it's gonna wanna melt or crease or something like that. So take your time with it first and foremost. Shrink a little bit at a time, keep the tint cooler, and if you feel like it's starting to get soft, more heat makes it more soft. And when it's more soft, that's when you have problems with it. Walk away, do another corner, come back to it after it cools down a little bit. But we're gonna start on this bottom section here and just, you'll see little creases. I really didn't take my time laying it out, but we'll start the old-fashioned way. We'll get us a little bit laid down. Another thing I'm gonna talk about is what you're looking for. So I'm hoping I'm expressing this in the video as best I can based on what I've got. So as you're shrinking, you're seeing these peaks and valleys, peaks, valleys, peaks, valleys. Don't concentrate so much on the tips of the peaks. You're kind of wanting to go past them and down the side of them, and you'll see the tint create a curve like this. And that's what you want to see, but you got to make sure you push that stuff down. Another thing to note, I'll go ahead and say, this whole middle section gets cut out on this car. So we're really going to concentrate on shrinking down these sides, because we're going to cut off all this extra in the middle. So we're going to want to try to push some of that film that way. So again, we'll shrink the top portion here just a little bit, and I'm going as close to the side as I can within reason, shrinking it right down to that real hump part. There's that hole that I don't have to worry about. So here I can see it's tightening up real tight right here. We've got a finger popping off this way. The film needs to come down. So this is where our pull shrinking is going to come in. Now I'm not going to grab the film and tug it hard enough to pull this glass off the stand. What I'm doing is pulling the film so that it creates tension, so that as I'm heating, you apply some heat to it and just let it naturally, you'll start to see the lines. So you're just grabbing it, 2 fingers is all it takes. Grab it, apply some heat, and move back and forth. It takes some time, don't rush it. I will never produce, I say that and I hope I don't ever change my mind, but I will never produce a video making it seem as if I am trying to speed through anything, because that's when mistakes happen. Mistakes cost you time. Time is money. matrix line is right here. So you're literally, don't push yourself any further than you have to. Get it to that matrix line and call it a day. So you're pulling, all you're doing is organizing the film downward, applying some heat, and that's allowing the film to pull together. But keep your heat gun at a distance. Don't apply too much heat. Now I can feel the tint getting a little soft, and that's where you risk running a crease. So I'm gonna just leave it as it is. I've got literally very little to go to get this shrunk out. The line's right here. So I'm gonna leave that there, and I'm gonna come up to this top portion. Even though it's more flat, you can see there's still a lot to shrink here. So we're gonna start off like we normally do. You see I'm creating a line. And I'm shrinking, I keep my card and I bump the edge to just keep that film moving downward, but I'll get it as close to the edge as I can so that I can shrink more of the film out. We're looking for those smileys. When you see those smileys, bump those down. And when you see these peaks, the peak's going up like this, so I'm gonna blow heat on the side of that peak. Not on the top, on the side, and you'll start to see these lines. Don't go much further than the middle because you don't want to create a big old tension line on the other side. Makes it tougher to shrink the other side. So I see it's getting real bunched and it wants to valley into the side right here. So same thing, I'm going to pull on it just a little and I'm looking for that line like this. And now in the corner, because it's still bunched here, instead of pulling like this and leaving this bunch, I'm pulling a little bit that way, just a little, not much. And you see it kind of creates a curve like this. So we'll push that out to the side, push all these lines up. Now we've got all our bunched film here, so we're gonna do the same thing, a little bit of pull shrinking. So I'm gonna start over here toward the middle, add a little heat, look for that line, add a little heat, add a little heat. You can basically see the film just kind of laying down with these tension lines. Those are the tension lines you want because that means the film is pulled together. I'm getting in a dangerous spot here because I'm talking too much and not laying the film down like I should. So as you're going, make sure you push that stuff down so it stays tacked to the glass. So same thing here, my top line is right here, so we have to just make it past that top line. So I'm gonna shrink this corner, whoops, so I can press that down past that line. Now I've got this pressed down, I'm gonna concentrate on this valley here. I need more tack on this glass. So it's a little bunched up here, it's like a peak right here. So I'm gonna pull on that, add a little heat, pull next to it, add a little heat. I'm moving about an inch over, adding a little heat, adding a little heat. I'm right toward the middle, so I don't want to go much past that. That's shrunk. We're cutting it right here. Cut, cut, cut. Now I know this is cooled down. Very, very, very slightly warm, but plenty enough we can go ahead with it. So add a little heat, and it's gonna get soft fast. So remember that. Add a little heat, push it down. Add a little heat, push it down. This is where our holes are. This is where the center section gets cut out. All right, I burned it right there, but this is where I cut it off, way up here. Let's do the other side. So now I almost just kept going and didn't explain this part, but I just have a habit of kind of just organizing things toward the top before I get started, so I could just easily start to shrink on it. So I've got me a little bunch right here, so I'm gonna blow some heat. There's my smiley right here. So we've got a peak here and a smiley here. So I'm gonna blow some heat right here along the side of that little smiley, and you'll see it curves right on down. Got another peak here. So we're gonna blow some heat on the side of it and kind of past it, lay that down, push it down. Another peak here, push it down. Right here is where it's starting to bunch up like it did on the other side. So we're gonna pull the film up, add some heat. We've got these tension lines here, so these are gonna be our peaks. So you wanna heat those down, get them to relax. Way past the matrix there. So let's finish off this corner. This is a tough window, so you know, I wanted to show you on something that was a lot harder. This is a more difficult window even for the advanced tinters. So anyways, I'm way past it's curling up because it's so tight in these corners. That's why it's pulling back off the glass. So we're way past our matrix line. We're good there. We're way past here. Here I am playing. So now the dreaded bottom part. You see I'm creating kind of a spot here in the middle. Because again, this is all cut off. Comes down here, comes down here. So let's get this started. I'll do some pushing first. And you hear people talk about pushing and pulling. This is the push method. You're adding some heat and then pushing it down. Now that's where it starts to bunch and you can't get past because it's just too much film. So you gotta pull on it. So let's tug on it. Start over here, add a little heat, shrink it slow. Should have actually done this first because it's gonna get hot. I'm gonna have to let it relax. So I'm just organizing the film downward. Remember your heat gun's hot, so watch your fingers. Another thing is think ahead and make sure you leave enough for your hand. Another thing, if you feel like the tint's starting to prematurely stick to the glass, pick it back up. You see this little bunch right here? Our line is right here, so we're golden there too. So leaving just a tiny bit on the side isn't that big a deal. You could push that down and shrink it out just a little bit more, but we're gonna leave it. It's golden. That'll probably pop up on the inside, but I'd rather add heat to it and push it down on the inside when I'm installing than to keep messing with it here. And that's another thing to think about is there's small, tiny little things that might be left behind. You're gonna hit it with the heat when you get on the inside. And it literally, once you get on the inside with it, you can heat the glass and push it down. I like to heat the glass and warm it up, and then I go inside as long as I'm not too close to a panel, and then I'll just blow some heat on the little finger. You'll see it start to kind of sweat, and then just push it out. So don't overdo it, don't overthink it. This is shrunk. So let me go over a couple of things before I walk away from this glass. I know that was kind of a fast video and I covered a lot of topic. So again, I'm doing this laying flat, a little bit different than it would be the norm. But remember, on your harder curves, when you start to see that film start to really bunch, you're gonna wanna put your fingers and pull it. And film will only shrink so far. If this glass was much taller, I'm not sure that this film would shrink to it. This is such a hard curve this way, and then it's curved this way. So it's one of the curviest bubbled corners I think I've experienced, but I burnt it here, I creased it here, but concentrate on getting past that dot matrix, which is literally here. You're saved by the bell in the middle here because a big old triangle gets cut out. Tops you saw aren't terrible, but they still do require a little bit of pull shrinking. You got to pull on it, organize that stuff to the top. My next step would be trim this all out, wet it, flatten it out. It's called a wet check, and then come around and see if I get any tiny little fingers that pop up, heat them out, stick it in the car. This is really close to the matrix. Most likely this part right here would pop a finger on the inside. I wouldn't bother with that. Prep well, install it, stick it, add a little heat, push it out, you'll have no problems. So, pull shrinking. This was the dry shrink method with the dryer sheet, and we pushed and pulled. I just want to make sure I'm covering all the bases here for you guys and giving you all the info to really help you out. Go back and look at some of the videos we've done in the past, some of the more simple things. Get really good at that push shrinking and understanding the film as it's laying down, as it's pulling together and shrinking, why you can't shrink to the side, which is the pull end. So you'd roll the film across the glass this way, you cut it off, that has to lay flat. You cannot shrink that at all, only to the factory edge and the factory edge. And the only way you're gonna get this far successfully is pulling a little on the film. You're pinching it, you're tugging just a little, you're adding some heat and watching the film kind of smooth out, and as you release the pressure just a little bit, you'll see how the film sort of lays to the glass and creates these lines, tension lines. Those tension lines are where the film actually shrunk back together and created a curl. So in this video, I'm not gonna go through the rest of cutting the tint out and doing a wet check and finalizing it and all that stuff. We've got that in other videos. I really wanted to just kind of show you or get you started with the advanced techniques such as pull shrinking. Learning to pull shrink, I think, is a little bit more of a learning curve than push shrinking, because with pull shrinking, it's a little harder to see the film actually shrink unless you're making sure that you're kind of pulling a little tension and releasing a little tension, so that when you release that tension, you can see those tension lines. So this wasn't the best glass in the world to show, because it is one of the more difficult ones, but hey, why not then, right? You're gonna come across them, you're gonna find them. I have that glass, it's a display board for me, but it's also a cheater glass because that's the model that has the wing that goes across the glass, and you can't shrink on the outside of the glass unless you pull the wing and the brake lights out, whole mess. So I decided to buy me a glass, I shrink on that glass if I have one coming, and then I'm already ready to go. So tint, tools, and everything, tintdepot.com. If you're not there, check them out. If you're buying from them, thanks for the support. Everything you need from the ground up, help to starting your business, recommended tools, all the tools you'll need, top tier premium films, lifetime warranties, budget films, economy films for training and starting. If you need any help, reach out to me. Be patient, it takes time, but with time comes perfection. So reach out to them if you have any questions, reach out to me if needed. Kevin Rogers, On Point Pro Styles in Gainesville, Georgia. See you on the next one.